Central Committee was moved to Wednesday last night because of Rosh Hashanah. Normally we have it on the fourth Monday of every month. And obviously we're approaching an election. So we have some heated issues going on. One of them is the one that I've been covering of these text messages that got out to Fox News from Mayor Farrakhan to she was communicating with Katie Porter about a town hall event that happened over a year ago in 2021. I think it was like June or July of 2021, in which the Irvine Police Department was not separating the two opposing groups. And so a scuffle occurred, somebody got a bloody nose, and apparently the man who hit one of the counter protesters has some sort of connection to Katie, like lives in her house or something like that, right? So I've learned a lot over the last couple of days about this particular scenario. Number one, I've learned who's on which sides of the fence. That's probably the first thing I learned. Um, there's, okay, these are text messages between two people. So the only way that Fox News and CNN would have actually known these text messages existed is if somebody within that conversation actually disclosed it. I saw the screenshot. Irvine PD was not included in the text messages, yet Farah's response to me on Twitter was that she got a records request for text messages between her and Katie and Irvine PD. They're not involved. Like, how did they even know to ask for these text messages? Obviously, there was somebody tipped them off, right? Somebody tipped them off. So we had a very interesting Central Committee last night. It wasn't even brought up. It wasn't brought up, except there was an announcement made that the people involved in clubs need to make sure that they are not supporting candidates who are not endorsed by the Democratic Party of Orange County on their social media. That only applies to Central Committee members, y'all. Or potentially like your leadership at the club level. I don't participate in the clubs. I only observe Central Committee. I'm an observer. So you can, try and manage your own people as much as you want. But like if you're gonna push people like me out, which I have been repeatedly pushed out of the process, you have no control over what I'm gonna say. I have not endorsed an opposition candidate, although I've heard that that locals really want to support Branda Lynn. I think that's her name. Because they're sick and tired of Farrah's BS and saddling up with the GOP and helping them push forward their agenda, such as a couple of years ago when she voted against having a special election and helped get an appointment for Mike Carroll, who was a Republican who is like no party preference now or something like that. But he's a Republican. Let's be real. And they've been voting with him. She and Tammy Kim have been voting with him. So basically, they've got a city council in Irvine that's stacked in favor of the developers. The announcement was interesting, though, because it didn't address the real problem. The real problem is, what do you do when you have a politician who's actively working against the party interests? The problem is not the constituents who are pissed off that this is happening. The problem is the politician who's working against the party interests and hurting other politicians. That's the real problem, and that didn't get addressed. The other thing that came up was the work that I had been doing for since October of last year. Um, and you know what's people get treated so differently on that campaign. I know for a fact that one of the speakers that was speaking in favor of, so apparently, like, we moved forward this legislation, we got the panic buttons in place in certain places, and now the employers are letting the batteries die so that the panic buttons don't actually work. And one of the speakers chosen to speak in favor of a resolution to make sure that those batteries are charged up is somebody who I was told was fired from the campaign, got brought back in. I'm not gonna totally speak ill of this person because I love this person a lot, but this is a lot of how we get treated differently in work environments. Um, I was slave driven on that campaign, and I'm now crippled. I'm literally crippled. I will never walk the same ever again. But it's all about images. It's all about finding your poster child, right? Regardless if I do the best work or I do the worst work or whatever it is, it's just like what's the most useful. The canvassers who got the legislation for those workers had no health care, no safety protocols. We were being sent into dangerous neighborhoods. We were being asked to slip into gated apartment buildings and gated properties. We had guns flashed at us. We had Nazis observe us. I had a home invasion robber try and slip into a building with me. Um, I was bit by a dog. I'm permanently crippled from this. We had no written job descriptions, so our duties were constantly changing. There was no protections for us because we were temporary workers. If you're going to fight for worker rights, it can't just be your union dues paying members. It's got to be equitable. You don't hire a bunch of people for transient employment, exploit their labor to help your union dues paying members. Um, and that's exactly what was going on. And still is going on because they're still doing operations all over the country. Um, I have submitted a legislative request to State Senator Dave Min's office to close the loophole in temporary employment, to make it so that that's not an area where workers can get exploited. Because that's just such a hypocrisy. It's so terrible. That's what happened to us. That was a very interesting central committee, and it just really it showed the true colors of a lot of people who were just like, well, this is serving my self-interest and the people that pay me. The people that pay me. Um, in the case with the leaks, the text message leaks, the people that pay me, developers, right? Um, this works out in the best interest there. If Katie is less friendly with the developer community than Farah is, then it suits Farah to serve her masters, right? This is why everybody should actually really be involved in local politics, especially like your party politics and stuff, because it actually does matter. It matters, like, in regards to what kind of endorsements are handed out, who gets support, and how things are run. And if you're not looking, you don't know what's happening.